Hello everyone, I'm here with Christian Calcano here, hello.
Yo, what's up everyone?
So I made a video of top 7 Czech players and Canadians, and obviously, you know, USA is the country with the I think you have the most amount of like good players. Probably that's just because your country is huge, and you know the origin of Magic is from USA as well, so it kind of makes sense. And because of that, we're actually gonna do top 10 today because there are just too many good players, and I think that.
Oh, we're doing top 10. Ooh.
Well, we're just using your list, man. I wanted to do top 7, but you just sent me 10.
No. Oh yeah, no, I thought we were doing top 7, but okay, well we'll do top 10 then. Let's do it.
Okay, sure. Also, you know, I thought that it's better to go from 10 to 1, but I'm actually not sure if that's like good because everyone kind of knows who's gonna be on the top. Like it's not really a secret. So as you go, it gets like less and less exciting, I feel like. So I think it's actually better to go from the top, and then and then the people are like, who's gonna be the guy who's like still included, like, you know, who's gonna be the guy who they're not gonna mention, etc. So I think it's just better if you go from the top. What do you think about that?
Sure. I mean, you threw me a curveball there, but yeah, let's do it. I mean, I think we all know who the undisputed GOAT is, so.
Yeah, actually, the way we did it is that I made a list, like, you know, who I thought were the best players, and Calc did one as well, and we actually had the top 5 exactly the same, I think.
Same order and everything.
Yeah, and then it kind of differs, but we're just gonna go with Calc's list, you know, so he's gonna take all the blame here.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna get a lot of heat probably, but it's all, you know, this was just like the way I made the list, like when Petter asked me a couple days ago, so like this, like, you know, I'm sure this list will change over time, and I'm sure there'll be discussion, all that good stuff, you know. It's not like, you know, I mean,
you don't have to be so defensive about it. You can just be like, this is my video, like, fuck you guys, basically.
No, all I'm gonna say is at the end of the day, like, there's just so many incredibly great players, and, you know, it's like my opinion, and that's it for now.
All I'm trying to say is that you don't like need to be that politically correct in my videos.
I got you, bro. I got you. You know, I'm just doing it for the people. That's all.
All right, coming up at number 1, I think this is going to be no surprise, is John Finkel.
Yes, the GOAT.
Yeah, like I don't even know whether it like makes sense for us to like explain why he's the number 1. He has like insane amount of prototype rates. I think it's like 18 or something, right?
17, if I'm not mistaken. Along, like, he's tied for the most top 8s all time, along with Paulo Vitor, of course. And yeah, I mean, John played from the very beginning of the game, basically from the 90s, and I believe his first top 8 was in the juniors division. That's back before, like, when they had the division of like teenagers. I think it was like 18 and under, and then like the normal like pros. And it wasn't long before he, you know, moved up to the adult players or whatnot, and then he just started crushing everyone there. And yeah, everybody knows, you know, Johnny Magic, Shadow Mage Infiltrator, dominated the game in various different eras, the 90s, the 2000s, and the 2010s. So, just without a doubt, the best Magic player in the history of the United States. And, you know, if he were still playing today, I think, like, if he were still, like, you know, as invested in organized play as he was in, you know, the previous decade, I think we would see him at the top of, like, you know, MPL rivals. And also, you know, he was in the inaugural class of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I mean.
Yeah, no matter who you talk to, you know, the best players are always like, you know, PV, Kai, and John. So obviously, you know, Kai and PV aren't from United States, so obviously John's gonna be number 1.
Yep.
All right, coming up at number 2. I think this is also like not really close. It's LSV, Luis Vargas. I'm actually not like 100% that, you know, he's better than the third person, but I just think that we're kind of biased just because how famous he is. Like, you know, everyone knows LSV. So because of that, I think people are like slightly biased towards him, but there's like no doubt that he's obviously like one of the best players. So
Yeah, I mean, he's even been mentioned in the conversation along with like, John and Kai and Paulo as like the best ever, and I think rightfully so. I mean, he's just, yeah, I mean, he pretty much like dominated the game. I would say in both sides, like limited, constructed, etc. And like he pretty much came onto the scene in the mid to late 2000s, and it's funny because that's like when I was getting my career started effectively. So I remember that his original like a squad of like testing partners like Paul Cheon, Jonathan Stocks, David Ochoa, these guys from the Bay Area. Like I remember Cheon was largely regarded as like probably the best player in the United States at the time, but it was Luis in the end who ended up kind of like his career was the one that really just went through the roof, etc. And he just another player who dominated the game for a decade, and he's still even though like we don't have like all these like huge tournaments here and there as much as we used to, especially everything going on, he's still like in rivals, so he's still playing at the highest levels in the game today. And obviously has, very successful content creation, and, he's very successful channel Fireball.
Also, I
was gonna say the main, like when it comes to channel Fireball, he's like the #1, I feel like, face associated with that.
Mm-hmm. Also, I remember a time where when he decided to join coverage, and he had like last couple pro tours to play in, and he top-8 it like 3 in a row.
Yeah, that's right. They always had to last minute find somebody else to do it because he was always playing on Sunday. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that run was so unreal. It was like I think it was the end of 2018 into 2019. I want to say.
I think it was slightly earlier, like maybe 1 year earlier. But
yeah, I get. Yeah, I mean, it's just he was just top-8ing too many tournaments. What can I say? But yeah, he was also like one of the players that I know you and I don't know about how many times you've played against him, but I had to play against him a lot in my career.
I played against him only once, and I played like shit, and I lost.
Yeah, well, he always jokes about how I always beat him, because I guess I did always beat him. That was 5-1 against him, and yeah, I mean, always one of the toughest opponents you could ever face, and he not only was he was the face of China Fireball, but he was also part of that great China Fireball testing team. Josh Better-Layton, David Ochoa, some other players as well. So
yeah, like before he top-8 those 3 pro tours in a row, I obviously thought that he was like very good, but that was the moment when I like realized like he might have been like a little bit busy with like other things that he was doing in life, but I think when he kind of realized that he might not get an opportunity to play anymore, I think he just like went all in for that last year, and he just top-8 3 pro tours in a row to like show everyone like I'm the boss here.
Yeah, and also remember he was, if I'm not mistaken, he was already a Hall of Famer at that point.
Yeah, I know.
He already had 5 top-8s, and then he top-8 3 in a row. Just Hall of Fame career on top of Hall of Fame career effectively. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there is no doubt that LSP is great. Okay, coming up at number 3 is Seth Manfield. We're getting to a point where it's like maybe like a little bit close because the players right behind him are also very good. But I just kind of think that Seth is insane, and he's even like crushing until to this day. Like I think like half a year ago he won one of the big tournaments with Sultai, and he just like is crushing all the tournaments that he plays. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, so Seth is a player who burst onto the scene like in the late 2000s. I remember, the first tournament where he kind of like, stepped someone into the public eye was Daytona Beach. It was like the first Grand Prix I flew to. I remember I was like excited because the Japanese were on my flight, and I was like flying next to Shota and stuff. But it was a limited Grand Prix, and I remember the finals of that Grand Prix was a 17-year-old Seth Manfield versus an 18-year-old Paulo Vitor Damocrosa.
Wow, really?
So, yeah, 2007, and yeah, it was insane. Seth ended up winning. That was like the first. Like I was just like, oh, who's this? Who's this kid from Maryland? Like my age, like on the grind, etc. And yeah, he kind of, he played some PTs towards the end of the 2000s and early 2010s. He kind of like took a break because he was finishing school, and then 2013 was kind of like he was done with school and he was like, okay, like let's play some Magic again. And all of a sudden he just wins the Grand Prix out of nowhere in Kansas City. It was Modern, I believe, at the time, and that was basically the spark that reignited Steph's career, and he just never looked back from that moment. He won that GP, and the next thing you know, he started traveling all over the States. Like I've traveled and played with him throughout the years as well, and he just started winning Grand Prix out of nowhere. Then he eventually became the world champion in 2015, where he beat Owen Turton in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And since then he's just continued to just stack on results. Became a Pro Tour champion. Is a multiple top eights.
He also like two or three times he was like in the run for the player of the year. He's actually very unfortunate that he like never made it, because like one time it almost like seemed like it was like impossible, but Owen got second at the Pro Tour. Then Paolo won a Pro Tour, and then he lost the battle to Luis Salvado. So like 3 times he just like came short, super close.
Yeah, that's right. He's one of only 2 people to ever play. Oh, sorry, one of only 4 people to ever play in a Player of the Year like tie-breaking match.
Yeah.
First was of course Brad Nelson and Guillaume Matignon in Paris in 2011, and then the second was Salvato and Manfield. It was
2 years back or something.
Yeah, it's 2018 or 2019, I believe. I think it was 2018, and then that was a different thing. They played like with. They had to choose like 4 different standard decks, and they had to pick one at random, or not at random, but they secretly chose one and played against each other until they won with each deck. So that was pretty cool to watch in person. And yeah, man. I don't know, like Seth is just like, it's weird. Like he just like, I don't know, he's like different than all the other players in a way. Like he just kind of has his own approach to the game that I feel like only he can really understand. Yeah,
I actually tested with him for 1 year. I was like testing with the Genesis team, and like a lot of the times I just like ask him, and then he wasn't really able to explain.
Yeah, I find I feel similarly to him. I also feel like there's like I always had issues like kind of like conveying my thoughts, but it just kind of like in my head it makes sense, and I feel like it was the same for him. Like. He has like he's also like not the best with words, but he just knows like.
Well, part of it is that like go ahead.
He plays and he just like you just know that he knows what's going on, and like you could see it like also like in his drafting too. Like he would draft like the like the weirdest decks or whatnot, but he always made it work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think part of it might be that like if someone plays like literally infinite, sometimes you just like know that certain play or pick is right. But either you can't explain it, you just know it's right because you did it so many times that you just know, or it's just like way too complex for like a person that doesn't know enough would understand. So it makes sense that sometimes people have hard time explaining stuff. But
yeah, and I guess last thing I'll say on Steph, he's also he was in the inaugural class of the MPL, and he's still there today. And honestly, I don't like if there's one player I think out of everyone in the MPL today that'll probably still be there in 10 years. so yeah, it'll be fun to see how it keeps going.
All right, number 4 is Owen Turton.
Yes.
Because of certain unfortunate things, he's not playing anymore. But there is no doubt that he used to be one of the best players. Even lost the. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say he was an absolute crusher. The first tournament I remember him breaking out was, I want to say it was Grand Prix Chicago 2007, where he lost to Steve Sadin, who was a New York player, and he was playing at the PT at the time. So, I knew him. And, but yeah, like Owen just kind of, he was like this brash, abrasive guy who just kind of, just asserted his dominance on the game. And he was just, I know he kind of like flip between like different testing squads like early in the 2010s, like between like I think the Star City Games teams and
He was part of Channel Fireball team at certain point as well.
Yeah, he was initially on Channel Fireball like in the early 2010s, like with Brian Kibler, LSV, etc. Those guys, and then it was after that that he joined the Pantheon in early. I want to say, I think it was 2012, maybe at the end of 2012, 2013, and that's where he, linked up with Reed and Huey, and they formed the Peach Garden Oath that everyone knows, of course, and they kind of just went on. Like when it comes to like team events, and they came back in 2012 as well. Like it was like there was no doubt that those three were gonna be a team, and without a shadow of a doubt, they were like the best team, like as far as like team events is concerned, in for that decade, like for sure. Like they won multiple team GPs, like top four multiple times, and yeah, they were just out of control.
Yeah, I agree completely. The first time I kind of recognized Owen was when he was like 13-0 at one of the GPs when he played Fairies. I don't know if you remember that run. It was like the format with like Scape Shift. It was like the new extended or something. I don't know, but he was like 13-0. And he was very young at that point. And that's the first time that I like kind of saw him, and I was like, oh, this dude is cool. Like I like the play. I like the way he played cards. He was like very strict. Like he just had this like strong aura around him.
Yeah, he definitely. I think he had like probably the best technical play out of anyone I've seen. And he was like, he along with like some of the previous players that we've mentioned so far, like Owen has an argument for at one point, being considered the best player in the game. Mm-hmm. So, and not many people can really say that. So that's why he's, he fell short of like, he fell short of a World Championship. He fell short of like Pro Tour Championship, but there was never any doubt in anyone's minds, at least in the top players' minds, that he was, at one point like the best player in the game, and he also won Player of the Year without top 8 a Pro Tour, I believe. It's like 20. Yeah,
that was when there was like no GP cap, and he top 8 like 8 GPs or something.
Yeah, it was 2011. He won at the end. I remember the Player of the Year trophy broke.
yeah. He was just like holding it like this. I remember that as well.
But yeah, man, just a very, very feared opponent, and
he also, I remember that he had like insane amount of like GP top 8s, but he like always came short of like winning one of the GPs, and then suddenly he like won 2 in a row. Like he won one, and the next week he won another one.
Yeah, he won DC and Albuquerque back to back in standard.
No, it was the first one was Legacy. He played Jessica Delver, and then he won with Mono Black Devotion. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 100%.
Oh, yeah, probably. Oh, yes.
he beat Jared Butcher that plays Sneak and Show in the finals.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, yeah, because I've played a lot of Grand Prix in my day, so they all kind of,
Yeah, I understand.
Yes, I recall.
All right. Coming up at number 5 is another member of Peach Garden Oath. Is William Jensen.
Yes. The second Peach Garden Oath member.
For some reason, I'm kind of underestimating Huey. Like, I never really thought that he was like that good, but anyone I talk to says that he is. So even I included him at like number 5, but I wouldn't come to that conclusion myself. It's more that I trust judgment of like other really good players more than my own. But there's no doubt that he's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I know Finkel himself has also said that that Huey was like one of the best players ever at one point. So like another player that you could say was like number one at some point in his career. His career started in the 90s, so he played like through the like Finkel, Kai dominance era, and then in the early 2000s he stepped away from the game like most other players at the time, like for poker and other things like that. Mm-hmm. And then he just came back out of nowhere in the early 2010s. He just decided to like
I actually did an interview with him, and he said that when he stopped playing, he just didn't really see a reason to play anymore because he was just like winning so much that it like wasn't like a challenge for him anymore. But then like the people kind of got better, and you know it was like harder to win again, and it just like made sense for him to start playing again basically.
Yeah, and it didn't take long for him to kind of get back into the top spot. He won some GPs. Of course, he like returned to form and he became a world champion. And he's a Hall of Famer, of course. Like so far, every player we've mentioned so far is a Hall of Famer up to this point. So
Yes.
he he's an MPL member as well, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I think so. I also remember remember that when he came back, like people were talking about the fact that he was like a little bit short of Hall of Fame and stuff like that. And I always like thought that all of these like old players were just good because they like had a better deck or the other people were bad. So I didn't really had like that much trust in the fact that he was one of the best. And then like a year after that, he like top 8'd like 6 GPs or something. I was like, okay, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, it was a different era back then, of course, but he's another player like John who dominated at like various different stretches of the game. So like those guys, like you just know for sure, like okay, like you can't really say like, oh, this player was only good because the competition they were facing, like 15, 20 years ago or whatnot. No, like this player's been good just like throughout the whole time that they've been, playing at the highest levels. So yeah.
All right, now coming up at number 6, I have to admit I don't even know who this person is.
Yeah.
How do I pronounce it? Gideon Schleifer.
Yeah, Gideon Schleifer. So I included Gideon because, yeah, like he was one of the players as well when I was starting that kind of like when I saw players my age like him just dominating the game on a level that I could only dream of. It just really, I just felt like that was like really powerful. But yeah, he's one of the youngest Pro Tour champions ever. He won a Pro Tour at 16.
Wow.
He top 8 his first Pro Tour at 15, I believe. He has 3 Pro Tour top 8s. It was Columbus 04, Philadelphia 05, which he won, and he beat Kenji Sumura in the finals of that one in an epic. Like honestly, like that's definitely one of the best matches of all time, and I feel like if you haven't watched it, you should look.
I don't think I watched it. I will definitely watch it though.
But yeah, it was in a special Pro Tour. It was the only Pro Tour that used a skins payout, which was that every time you won a match, you got an amount of money.
Ooh.
And it was a triple elimination Pro Tour. It was the first Pro Tour I ever attended. Like just like I went there like to try to grind into the LCQs and stuff, and just play side events all weekend because it was really close to me. It was in Philadelphia, and yeah, I remember I saw Kai going 6-0, and I thought, oh man, German juggernaut, etc. But no, at the end it was this kid, Gideon Schleifer, who just man, he was just like a dominant force. He didn't play for very long, and he played for like just I want to say like the mid 2000s, and the last PT he may have played was like 08 or 09. I'm not 100% on that, but I know at the time he was the fastest player to reach 100 pro points in the history of Magic, and I believe Brad like overtook that like when he like came up to this team in like 09, 2010 or whatnot. But yeah, I mean Gideon was like I never got to really play against him because I wasn't on the Pro Tour back then, but everything I saw and heard of him was that he was just definitely like one of the best players in the game during his time. And if he like took Magic like more seriously at the time, he probably would have been, like a lot of people say this, but he probably would have been like one of the best ever. And honestly, honestly, you could maybe like say in some comparisons to like Stan, even like Zivka, like just like a complete god who just like crushed every time he played, but like he never took the game like super seriously. So,
yeah. By the way, Zivka is in Rivals now, and I think he's like in a third or second spot or whatever. So.
Nice. No, yeah. I mean, of course, because again, one of the best players, sure. But yeah, man. Definitely. I definitely think that This might be probably like this player and the next player might be like the two most controversial people in this list, but I don't know. I just think that like I just wanted to like recognize someone like him who was just who I think was just like really
that's fine.
good, so yeah.
All right. Coming up at number 7 is also a player that like played during the age that I didn't play, and I obviously know the name because he's often in a conversation for Hall of Fame and stuff like that. It's Mark Herrholtz. Is that how I say it?
Yeah, Mark Herrholtz. Yeah, he is also a Pro Tour champion. He was he's from Michigan, so I don't know if you know RIW Hobbies, but I know he.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
Like players like like Pat Chapin, Corey Burkhardt, Brian DeMars, other players like that. Like they've all been around like Heezy's circle. And I know Herbert Hall is also like he tested quite a bit on the PT with like Gabriel Nassif and Chapin, as I mentioned. He has 4 Pro Tour top 8s. He's often in the conversation for Hall of Fame. He was another player who just dominated the game in the 2000s. He won Pro Tour Honolulu 06. He just always had like really good innovative decks. And obviously working with other bright minds and such. And I think.
Why do you think he's not in the Hall of Fame? If you think that he's like maybe better than like some of the people on the list that we're gonna mention after that?
Well, I think it's because he it's not like he wasn't really like playing on the PT for like 10 plus years or anything. So he had a short time on the PT as well, and like he just probably wasn't as well known outside of the United States. So
that makes sense.
Like it's tough. It's tough to get into the Hall of Fame, and there's always gonna be a lot of competition to get in. But I know he like would play on and off like since like his like dominating years or whatnot. Like I've played against him a few times. Also, fun fact: he was the first player in the history of Magic to beat me in a Grand Prix.
Ooh, that counts for something for sure.
Yes. I played him in my first Grand Prix ever, and I had no idea who he was, and I was just a small 15-year-old child having fun playing Magic, and he just destroyed me so hard.
All right, coming up at number 8 is someone that I did an interview last week actually, so I have pretty good information about this guy. It's Paul Rizzo.
Yes.
Before you say anything, Paul Rizzo said himself that he actually wasn't like that good, but he just like got kind of lucky in certain spots or whatever. But when he was saying that, I was like thinking, yeah, because I think he's.
Honestly, like, I mean, I get where he's coming from. I've heard him make like similar arguments before about like think about like all the players who are like one game away, one draw step away from like having like these one tiebreaker away from like having all these like, results and such. But hey, like that's a part of it too, like even the best like there's always non-zero amount of luck involved in like getting to the highest levels of anything. So yeah, but like I mean Paul, I don't know, Paul's just like such a strong player who naturally like understands the game on a deep level, and it really didn't matter like how much practice he had, he always like had a good shot of like winning any given tournament, I would say. So he's just like a naturally gifted player, and I always hated facing him.
I think what he like potentially said about like Pro Tour top 8s makes sense. He has like 4, and a lot of the times he maybe like run pretty well, or like the tiebreakers broke in his way, but he has like 19 GP top 8s. Like obviously if he had like 4 Pro Tour top 8s and like 7 GP top 8s, you might like maybe think about the fact that he just got lucky or whatever, but he has 19. Like obviously he's really, really good. I mean,
he was just that's another thing. He didn't even play that much either, too, right? Like he can only play so much. He wasn't like one of these like globe-trotting Americans like myself who just kind of like went to all the tournaments. He just kind of like went to whatever he could, because he has like his work outside of Magic and everything. And you could always find him like grinding a GP here or grinding on Moto here and there. So yeah, I mean he Hall of Famer as well, of course, and yeah, very powerful mage.
Okay, coming up at number 9 is the standard master, Brett Nelson.
Yeah.
I actually think Brett is like commonly very underestimated. For some reason, I think people have this like common belief that he maybe like isn't that good or whatever, but I think Brett is really, really good. Would you agree with that?
I mean, just, what can I say? Like, he's, probably one of the greatest minds of the game for sure. But he's definitely someone who I feel like he had to work really hard to like get as good as he is, and he just like I mean, there's probably few people. There's probably few people in the world who have tested as much as he probably does, for events. I mean, I can't like say for 100% certainty, like based on I'm never he was never someone I tested with. Like him and we had our battles, of course, throughout the years, but I only got to see like what I got to see on the battlefield and stuff. But yeah, like without a doubt, like one of the best like standard players ever. Like everyone was always waiting to see like what Brad was playing at any given tournament, and that's still the case today for sure.
Yeah, I actually tested with Brad, and he has a very like he just, for example, there's like the standard format, and he just like convinced that certain strategy is the best, and he's just gonna sit down and like just figure it out. I think a lot of people, what they do during the testing process is that they're just like trying to find the best deck or whatever, but what happens oftentimes is that you either find it too late, or you just don't really find anything and you just like pick something, but then you don't really have like a tuned version. You haven't played enough of all the sideboard games, so like the numbers might not like add up exactly as you want, so you might play like free cards in your board that aren't like that useful, and you're like missing some cards for some of the other matchups. But Brad just like kind of commits pretty early, and then he just figures out everything. He like knows how to board on the draw, on the play, in all the matchups. He knows like these cards I don't want, these cards I'm gonna put in, and he has a plan for everything. He also boards against it's kind of obvious maybe like for us because we're pros, but he's like always knows how to board against the deck that your opponent is gonna have post board, and I think that's actually his like biggest strength, that he can like kind of put, like for example, if he plays against a pro, he knows that the pro is gonna board this way, but maybe if he plays against like a random guy on a GP, he might like board this way, and he's like really good at making these like small changes during sideboarding based on his opponents and stuff, and I think that's like one of the most important skills in standard, so that that makes sense that he's winning so much in it.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, he's definitely. He's dominated the game for so long, man. Like pretty much all of like the previous decade. And he's a MPL player today, so I mean, I think it's only a matter of time until like he's gonna be in the Hall of Fame. So
I think he should be there, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
All right. Number 10, the last person on our list is the last remaining person, member of Peach Garden Oath, is Reed Duke.
Yes.
I actually think that with Reed, he's like, I don't want to say anything bad, but I think he's like slightly overrated just because people like him very much. I obviously think he's like very, very good. Don't get me wrong or whatever. But I think that if he wasn't maybe as famous and popular, maybe people would think that he's like slightly worse than they do now. But there's no doubt that he's one of the best players, regardless.
Yeah. I mean, I understand all those things. And I think like there's an argument for so many people to be in the top 10 list, from the States, etc. But yeah, Reed is like the third member of the PGO that we mentioned before, and yeah, he's just a player who he's played the game since he was 5, and he kind of just like never stopped, and he's just someone who just worked his way up all the time, and he like started I didn't mention this before about Brad, but he started like Brad. He kind of like became better, like just like grinding a lot of Magic Online, and then he eventually dipped into like the pro scene, and like both of them just kind of never looked back after that. Like they both started like at the beginning of the last decade, so 09, 2010. 2010 for Reed for sure, and yeah, and like throughout 10 years, they just accumulated a bunch of incredible results, like a bunch of Grand Prix results, and some Pro Tour top eights, and now you have a Hall of Famer Reed Duke.
He even lost the finals of World Championship to Shahar Shenhar.
Oh, that is another. That's another one of the epic matches.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Like all of these players, like regardless of who you choose, like you're always gonna find like I would say like some of like the best matches of all time. Like one of these players is gonna be involved at some point. I feel. So yeah. I mean Reed was always like Reed's from New York, so not too far from me. Like maybe like an hour and a half or so. So I always saw him at like the tournaments around here, and of course I competed against him on the tour and all that, and he was like none of these players were people I'd ever want to face. Like,
obviously.
Like in terms of like if I want to win, I don't want to face them.
Yeah, I understand.
But I mean, I'm always excited to face like the best, and Reed is definitely no exception.
I was actually about to do some honorable mentions at the end, but I actually think it might be better if we don't, because there are just so many good players in USA that I'm like afraid that we're gonna like forget someone. If you're okay with that.
I mean, if we did honorable mentions, I think that we'd be here for a while.
Yeah, let's just not do that. I think it's better for multiple reasons, so let's just not do that.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for your expertise today. It was fun. If you guys like the video, please click on the like and subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Calc on Twitter as well.
Yeah, at C Calcano, follow me.
And see you next time. Bye bye.